I think it's goes back to like a kind of personal values almost, you know. So that grandfather of mine that I told you about earlier, the German granddad who um, ingrained Swiss watches in my mind. He was also the one who always taught me to look after well-made things. So he said, if you have a good pair of shoes, you have to clean them. You have to know how to clean them. You have a well-cleaned house, you know, you do that yourself. You know, there's no value in driving a Mercedes if it's not clean. So I think, you know, looking after things, that was always been something personally with me. That's been with me. I think, yeah, once I got into the watch industry in terms of like as a collector, I just genuinely asked myself, how can I clean this watch properly? If there's a cleaning tool for everything in the world, why is there no cleaning tool for watches? So I didn't believe that there was nothing. So I walked into all the different watch stores and I asked them, how can I clean my watch? There's so much ingenuity and focus and around the creation of these expensive pieces, and nobody has ever actually focused on making a good cleaning product. So that, I think that's where the idea came from. Really, we have the same thing with watches in Switzerland. So
Really?
yeah, that's probably a good carryover. The actually the if you like Buchera and for example in Zurich Bayer, which is the oldest Patek and Rolex retailer in Switzerland, they will make you sign a paper that you will not sell the watch for 2 years, or you will have to offer it to them first. Otherwise,
Because they buy used they buy used, right? Pre-owned and such.
they do pre-owned as well, yeah. And they might not buy it off your hands, or maybe they also offer you a really, really bad price if you bring it to them. But they just say it's like a break of contract, breach of contract if they find you selling one of their watches within the first 2 years.
Oh, so I go to them, I get the watch, I pay for it, I get an invoice with a contract that I sign.
No, you sign it before you order the watch.
Oh, you sign it before ordering the watch.
Yeah.
So in order to get into their system, like
Yeah.
waiting list,
Correct.
we'll have to sign it, which is basically, I guess, is the waiting list or the waiting
Yeah.
documents, and it says
Exactly.
2 years.
Yes, they
not-
call it wish list. So they ask you what would you like. They will take one wish of you for at least each brand. So you will not be able to ask for 5 Nautiluses and 3 Aquanauts and all the different Pepsis on GMTs. No, you can order one each, and from each brand, and then you'll they'll make you sign this piece of paper.
You go, you sign, you put your name on a wish list. But can you put your name on a wish list for any watch you want? Or they tell you, okay, no, you cannot start with a 5811. Let's start with a Calatrava Salmon, for example.
You can start with anything you want. So you can absolutely. They will just simply tell you like how difficult it is and how long it will take. So, for example, for my 6119, that was the first ever watch I bought from them. Full stop. They told me it's probably they get like, let's say 5 to 6 per year. So they have already a backlog of 2 to 3 years. So they hope within 3 to 4 years to fulfill that wish for you. So they give you that estimate. And of course, then you have a moving market. People might jump off the list. So, every now and then you go in, and have a coffee and speak to the people and ask if anything's moving. You know how it goes.
How important is this actually? Like the connection you have with the
Relationship
dealer?
management. I think it's very important, like with anything. It's if you just go in and you order something, you never come back. It might work with some dealers, but
because some people don't like it. They feel like I'm here to buy something. I'm not here to make friends, to come and like, because you go there, you spend an hour talking to them, having
Of
coffee.
course.
You talk about different things in life. I was like,
exactly, yeah. You try to find out something from the sales assistant.
exactly. But at least you think they're clear on like what you can get, how long will it take? What about the prices? Because if they go up, right? It's you don't sign.
That's right.
You don't sign any, or you don't pay a deposit to hold the price.
No, you just like join the wish list, and then whatever is the price when they got the watch for you, you'll pay that price.
They don't allow you to pay for a deposit.
No,
They don't.
they won't do that.
Okay. Because if I'm not mistaken, some independent would lock the price for you, like
Really?
Kari Voutilainen or something.
Wow. Okay.
So you pay 30% for 7-8 years.
Right.
That's already a huge amount of money.
That's
So if he's selling it
yeah.
for 140,000 Swiss franc, you pay 30% of that. But
Okay.
I think they lock the price. They said, okay, no matter what happens, this is the price you're gonna pay.
okay.
Maybe it's already overpriced. Maybe I don't know.
I mean,
because
if-
if you look at Patek, it's
Yeah.
increasing. If we take 5% each year,
yeah.
and the watch is at 70,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do 3-4 years, that's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there was a situation with the Vacheron 222 from lots of my friends that kind of ran into the situation where they joined the waiting list very, very early, and they increased. So this was not in Switzerland, actually. This was in Singapore and some other places in Asia, I think, where they didn't raise the price by 5%, but actually way more. And then it ended up being like 10 or 15 grand difference by the time
Yeah.
they got the watch.
True.
And so
And they just and that's on the gold one before even the steel. Because I remember the gold was actually just a number of like 50, let's say 50 Swiss
Yeah.
franc. It ended up being like 70.
yeah, exactly.
So we're talking about, that's a huge increase. That's 20%.
It's massive. But when you think about it, once again, from a business perspective, we're talking about very large corporations with very, very large sales volumes. So, I don't know how many 222s exactly were produced or are being produced still. But when you think about it, it's, how can you enforce that certain people will get the price from a certain time if you have all this movement in the market and all this movement with the prices? So the only fair way to do it is hope for a fair pricing policy from the from the manufacturer that hopefully is not going up by 10% every single year, and then just hope that you're not being
Yeah, but if you look at everything around us, usually they get a bit cheaper by time. Watches just keeps going, and that's another argument I have with, if you take the biggest brand and the most in demand is like Patek. If you go to Patek now, you get Aquanaut chronograph for 50.
yeah.
That's a lot of money for a steel chrono rubber.
is a lot.
Like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
No matter how much you tell me it's selling in gray market, whatever, I'm buying a 50 grand watch
Yes.
that is a chrono on rubber strap, an entry level. It's basically entry level. If there's no
Yes.
demand, this is what
Yes.
you're going to start with, right? So if you go to a
Exactly.
Patek now, you're 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
I want to start with something that the basic one is off limit because there's a high demand, but you can start with something else. The next step is 50,000.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of money. So like, maybe it will correct itself. But the thing is, with watches, you cannot go lower. They cannot start discounting now.
Well, some brands have to. I know where there's one brand based on 3 letters that actually reduced their list prices twice within the last 2 years, at least in Switzerland.
They reduced the retail price.
Yes.
They reduced, or they start giving discounts.
No, they reduced the retail price.
You want to say the name at least for me, so I can. But you can say why. Which brand?
So I've heard from some retailers that IWC decreased the list price actually twice, because they went during, like, since the hype and COVID times, they went up crazy with the list prices, and they couldn't sustain it. And a little bit like with JLC, for example, they saw how, like, the whole world saw what they were doing, and the watch community online got mad over it, and then they actually reduced the official retail price again. And that was, imagine being a retailer selling something at retail price, which in Switzerland still is the common practice. There's not much negotiation usually. And then you might have like a really good customer who's coming in today, buys a watch from you, and comes back after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then the price has.
I think they did the same with the engineer now. Now I remember, and they reduced it by 1,000 or 1,500. Not again. I think so.
It could be. I don't know any specific examples, but I like this story I heard from a pretty reputable source.
And there's no discounts, you say, in Switzerland or in Europe.
Well,
depends on the brand.
It depends on the brand, depends on the very specific model, depends on the dealer.
But in general, no.
in general, no. I don't think if you go into the flagship Omega, into the flagship IWC, flagship Rolex, no matter what the model is, I don't think there will be any discounts.
You know, in our region for a very long time, you're used, and I was telling you yesterday, is like how we have the calculator next to this.
Yes.
Yes.
Tack, 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 tack.
Right to it, this is your
This
price.
price.
And nowadays, they not like 5-6 years ago, they started reducing it much higher. They used to go into an Hublot retailer here in Kuwait.
Yeah.
You start with 25% off. It was overpriced. This is something everybody knows that. So it was that. So the retailer would increase it by 20%
Mm-hmm.
and then give you 25, which is basically off retail,
Mm-hmm.
5% off retail, technically. And then if you're a good customer, they would do it 28, 27. If you're a VVIP, to 35.
Yeah.
But again, they're still making money because of the way they did the calculation, the pricing, and everything. And nowadays, it's getting actually, and I'm gonna say this, even if they're gonna hear it in Dubai, Kuwait is still a very good market to buy watches from boutiques because you still get discounts.
Wow. Okay.
If you go to Dubai, is retail. No matter how important you are, if you go to a Richmond group,
Mm-hmm.
you pay retail.
Wow.
You don't pay anything. Here in Kuwait, you still get discounts from the biggest brands.
So do you think that's because it's less like a less corporate environment and more like a family run kind of relationship driven environment?
Exactly. And another thing is that it's hard to, so you're stable, let's say you're Rolex in Kuwait. Rolex is a different situation because Rolex is always in demand. It's really hard to, but even Rolex used to give a discount on gold watches and steel watches
Mm-hmm.
and such. But let's say you're trying to Patek and you're used to giving 15% and the grant complications and such. And then suddenly if Patek comes and owns the boutique, 0 discounts. It's really hard for the consumer. So they start eventually taking it down. And I remember Omega in Kuwait, they used to do easily 15%. Easily. Say hello, 15% off, this is your price. And they reduced it to 8. I think now is 5 or something like that. So I think they will take it slowly. But if you go to Dubai, because they're owned by these brands, so Richmond would like to sell at exactly the same retail.
Mm-hmm.
And you pay 5% extra. So if you come to Kuwait, you actually, if the watch not in high demand, you would
Yeah.
easily get 5-10% off.
Okay.
So still a lot of Kuwaitis prefer to buy from Kuwait compared to like in Switzerland, like in
Okay.
Swiss or in Europe and such. In Europe, because we get the tax back, which makes
Yes.
a difference, and the retail is usually lower there than here.
Except for the UK now.
Or UK is another thing.
Yeah.
I think
They
didn't?
don't have a tax-free system anymore since Brexit.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
I think is a huge problem for them because I was actually offered a Cartier tank chinois when it just came out. You know, the Asian design little.
the enamel one or something like that. The red
They
one,
had
right?
it in enamel as well, but they had it in the Bond Street boutique in rose gold by accident when I just walked in.
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3 years ago when it just came out, and limited edition, the whole shebang, and it was, I can't remember what the list price was. I believe it was like maybe high 20s, low 30s,
Okay.
and there was 20% VAT on it.
Yeah.
And as a Swiss person, I couldn't get the VAT off. So they said we cannot take the tax off. There's no tax free in the UK at the moment. So that was to me unbelievable. I said to them, like, how do you sell watches to any foreigner here? It makes no sense. Why should I pay VAT as a tourist? And yeah, they didn't.
There are workarounds around it. I think they would ship you watches, especially Harrods and these places. They would try to do things because it's very
Yes.
difficult to compete. And we're talking about things at 50,000, 60,000. It's not cheap.
Yes.
So the difference is like 6,000 Swiss franc.
Yeah.
Another Rolex, another two-door, another
Exactly,
Omega.
Speedmaster.
Speedmaster, exactly. But okay, Said, let's. I want to go back to your. Now we're starting.
Okay.
I want to go back to your childhood. So you grew up in Zurich, right? You were born and grew up in Zurich.
No, I was born and raised in Germany.
Okay.
By the time I was 18, I moved to England, to the United Kingdom, London specifically. So I did university there. And right after university, after my bachelor's, I started working in London as well. Just got sucked in by the big smoke.
Why in London? Because you grew up speaking German. Like, what languages do you grow up with?
So I grew up speaking German, a little bit of Arabic, My godmother lived in the UK, so I had like some affection for, I think, English language in general, and the United Kingdom. I always loved London, even as a kid. I loved Hamleys and Harrods and all of their toy offerings. Yeah, so I think there's a story even crying about myself crying throughout the whole of Regent Street because I didn't want to leave Hamleys because I was fixed on having a Spider-Man costume as a kid. And it's like my mom said, like, well, you know, we're gonna have to bring this boy back here one day. Maybe we can buy as many Spider-Man outfits as you would like.
Did you buy it? Did you buy it during the college days then, or what?
I think no. Private information.
So
No,
I went to
yeah.
London.
Yeah, so I ended up in London. Always wanted to live there and had an amazing, you know, time off. But from 18 all the way to, I think, when I was 26, 27, that's when I lived there. Great time. And also the time where I got into watches, really, like, properly.
Yeah, London is a good place to start. Like a lot of people, especially if you. But how did you start in London then? Like, do you remember going to Harrods, or like how do you remember
Right,
seeing
so
watches?
I think, so going back a couple of years, my grandfather, when I turned 18, my grandfather just said, you need, now that you're 18, you need to have a proper watch. And a proper watch is always Swiss. That's, as a German person, already what I learned about watches, you know. And then when I asked why, he explained me, there's a, you know, first of all, the Swiss are specialized in watches. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. And he told me everything about automatic movements and how, you know, how that is the better thing, the superior technology, basically. And so I always knew that. So when I was 18, I had a couple $100 from my family, you know, gifted left and right, specifically to buy myself a Swiss watch. And I went into a Tissot retailer in Berlin, and I bought myself a Tissot. This was before the Powermatic 80, I remember. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, very, very basic automatic.
Automatic. Wasn't
Swiss.
automatic. Yeah.
Yes.
Tissot was huge back in the days. I don't know why. But what make them, what was it with Tissot that they were everywhere? Like desirable. I remember them in Kuwait. I remember them. And
Very
then they
good
did
question.
the touch stuff, and I don't remember.
I mean, there were lots of brands back then that I think Longines, you know, that Longines used to be what Rolex is today, right? Tissot probably also almost to the same extent, but probably they were the mass produced way before like all this luxury hype and fame, you know, of like super high numbers. I think it was probably like enough, just good enough for the people.
Yeah.
Great reliable technology, beautiful watches, huge catalogs of different options.
Different options, yeah. The thing is, I think nowadays we associate Swiss watches with with Patek Rolexes and these big guys.
Yeah,
And back in the days, we're like, Swiss watch is a Swiss watch.
yeah,
But if you go way back in Kuwait, like Swiss watch has always been Swiss watches. And what usually sells is this practical, dust-proof, waterproof idea,
Yes.
not the idea of being something luxury, gold and such. Maybe that's the reason why Tissot was like for everyone.
yeah,
So you go to every mall and you can get something.
exactly.
Interesting. But when was your first serious purchase?
Okay, so then,
That's serious for the time. I mean,
yeah, so that was a couple of years later, I think in so when I started working in London already during my university time, I saw my boss back then turning up with a classic AP Royal Oak vintage, like it must have been one of the original kind of, what is it, the reference, 16202 or something like that.
16-02 is the extra thin, but I wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
The real. Oh no, that's the
No,
modern
15.
one.
This is the new one.
Yeah. Okay.
15-02.
So he had the old one, like 80s, 70s, maybe blue
Okay,
dial, the dark
okay.
blue dial, and I just saw it on his wrist, and that was, I think, the first time in my life where I really realized there is more to this than Tissot, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically because I was working on Shaftesbury Avenue, so this is just off Regent Street. So I asked my boss about it. He didn't want to talk about it. I think it ended up being in a heirloom piece or something for him. So I realized like I want to find out more, so I just walked down the road to Watches Switzerland, and I went right into the Rolex section because that was the biggest, shiniest thing, and I asked them what they have, and then they took me through the Datejust and all the sports pieces and everything.
What year we're talking now? Around what year?
This must have been maybe 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
So actually not that long ago, you know, just a bit more than 10 years. And yeah, they showed me everything. And I remember looking at the price tag. It must have been a Datejust for like maybe 6,000 or 5,000 back then. And I asked them, but what makes this watch so special in comparison to my Tissot?
Yeah.
And I remember the sales agent would not be able to answer that question properly. I said, is this steel better than the steel on my watch? Is the crystal better than... And he wasn't able to answer that question. And then I was quite disappointed, actually. And I left.
So this whole fancy...
Yeah, I was like, okay, so it's also automatic. It also has stainless steel. It also has... So where's the benefit? I think it was just like, you know, he didn't take the opportunity properly, the sales agent. But yeah, then fast forward... I think a year later, I also then started finding out, I think Watchfinder it was back then, where I started seeing that that was to me one of the first like trustworthy places where you could, especially, I think in the UK, it's still quite big, trustworthy places to buy retail, secondhand, you know, luxury watches. And I saw then that I could buy that Datejust for way less. And then I saw like, I think a Datejust 2. You know, the big bulky one, I think it was 41 millimeters or something, way too fat, but the oyster bracelet and a smooth bezel. And to me, that was already then the better Submariner in my point of view, because it could do more. It's got the same movement. You have the date. It's all steel, so it's rugged, but it's way more polished. So you could do all the sporty stuff, but you could also
dress it up.
Exactly. So that's what I locked in on. I think £4,000 or something. That was the normal price back then.
Yeah.
Bought the watch, black dial. Later I changed it to a white dial. So I played around.
So you got it from Watchfinder?
Yes.
It was the store or online? But back at the store, I think.
That was I saw it online, and then I walked into the boutique. They shipped there specifically for me to see. Fell in love with it. I think it was like my biggest credit card transaction ever for me then.
Yeah.
I think it was just barely within the limit of my first Amex or whatever it was. Yeah, and I remember it felt like a huge punch in the gut.
Yeah. Now it's way different.
A good one.
It's a good one, yeah. And then you got the basic indexes, black dial.
Yeah.
It's very basic. So
Very basic.
oyster bracelets,
Yes.
not fluted bezel, like the regular bezel.
Exactly.
So the most basic Datejust you can get.
Yeah, I couldn't be more
In
basic.
black.
Yeah.
And why? And how did you switch? Like, how did you
The
just
dial. Or
You
to
did
the-
it yourself, or did you go to a?
No. This is like, I think this was like years later, close to when I even sold the watch. A couple of years later, I was like thinking, you know, I'm just tired of the black dial. I saw exactly the same one in white from like a dealer in California, and then this is where already like Chrono 24 was quite well known. So I ordered like a white original dial, and I went to like some watch shop, and they replaced it for me.
Oh, so you ordered the dial alone, and then you replaced
Yeah,
it.
from like a secondary marketplace
Yeah.
dealer. Yeah, and that's like, I think that's when I like already started gaining a little bit more confidence about, you know,
Playing
okay,
around with
so
it.
yeah, we can play around with this stuff. This like, I didn't have the confidence to change the bracelet, but yeah, that was that.
And then so like everyone from us had different types or different brands that we liked throughout. Because I remember back, I don't know, 15 years ago, an Hublot was something I was looking forward to. Like I would look at the classic Fusion. I would look at
Yes.
these kind of like the carbon dial. Remember the carbon dial?
Oh my God, yeah,
It used to be very cool.
huge, yeah,
Nowadays, it's really hard to
yeah.
buy one of these watches. You remember the brands that you've been through? And you think that
Yeah, I think Hublot was definitely like if you're like an 80s or 90s kid, I think, and that was kind of your time, you know. I think like all the pop stars, all the rappers, all the DJs, they all had the Hublots. So
True.
even Ed Sheeran in his early days, I think was so any like pop star you were looking at, that was footballers as well,
football
huge
was
thing,
huge. Football
huge
with us
thing
is
in
huge.
Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, and Hublots everywhere.
Yeah, so I definitely remember liking Hublot. But it never like stuck with me that, you know, Breitling was huge. I remember at least when I was growing up in Germany, the Breitling Navitimer,
Yeah.
and actually also there's like the Heritage. Is it called the Breitling Heritage Ocean
The Ocean, Super Ocean, the
Yeah.
kind of the diverse,
Yeah, with a big bezel, kind
the
of a
big
competitor
bezel,
to
yeah.
the Submariner back then.
The blue dial, and
Yes.
yeah, I think they had blue, black, with the mesh bracelet was really popular.
Yes.
Yeah. But another thing with Breitling, they used to be huge, and I still remember going into New York City, going to the I still get emails from New York City Breitling boutique.
Really?
I unsubscribed maybe a year ago or something because they keep sending me, and that was in 2000. I don't know. I don't remember 12, 13. But Breitling was something that I would look up to. Like it was,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm not sure. Did they just go out of style, or they didn't keep up with what we were doing, or just you eventually grow out of it, and then Patek is the only brand you look at, Vacheron is the only brand you look at, 16202 is the. So that's
I think I don't know exactly when George Kern took over Breitling, but I think that's where like a lot of movement in their model lines and stuff was. So I think it was just not really. It didn't. At some point, it didn't feel comparable to everything else that was there in terms of price. I felt like, you know, if you could buy like on the secondary market, you could buy like a Datejust that felt to me as like a superior watch and also superior brand as Rolex. Then why would I spend 5,000 on a Navitimer or like 4,000? I don't know what the price was back then, but I remember it felt that there was superior watches for the money. And yeah, also I remember it was very, very big, very, very shiny, you know, the bracelets, like fully polished bracelets,
yeah, true.
very loud. And I remember always also like having a problem with the size. It's just, you know.
Yeah, now they have a lot of different sizes, but they used to be
Exactly.
huge. Yeah. Used to be huge. But so after the Datejust,
Yeah.
what did you actually buy or purchase?
So this is actually super interesting. So I actually kind of downgraded, but this I think was the first definitive step for me to become like a true collector. So I had a business trip to go to Zurich when I was living in London, and I had no idea that years later I would move to Zurich, to Switzerland. And I remember the month that the Tudor Black Bay GMT, the Pepsi, came out. The whole internet was on fire about it, and like a bunch of influencers from the UK were telling you why this is like the big next thing, and it's like a true flyer, and Hodinkee was all over it. I remember James Stacey did like an in-depth video traveling to California showing. So I was in love with this watch, you know, and I didn't care about anyone. This was like the times where everybody was saying like, if it's not a Rolex, it can't be a Pepsi. So there was like two camps, I guess, in the watch world, right? And so I traveled to Zurich, and it was like a 2-day trip. On the day I was traveling back, I walked into the Bucher boutique on Zurich airport, and they had the watch there. And I was like, but it's not for sale, right? And she was like, yes, of course it's for sale. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the moment. I was sweating all over. I almost missed my flight. I remember I was rushing the lady to put the name on the Tudor card and stamping everything. And yeah. And that was my second watch then. So that was the first complicated watch, if you will, for me as well, you know, with like a GMT function. And I loved it. You know, anywhere I traveled in the world, I went to China, the United States.
And you would actually use it, right?
I use it
time zone
all the time, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was actually kind of, I think that made me for the first time also like move on in terms of like getting into complications and thinking actually watches can be so much more than just time and a date, you know? So then I started like understanding as well and Googling more and like falling into this rabbit hole a little bit more like about complications. What else is there? And then for the first time, I think I watched like a video of minute repeaters and you know, chronographs and understanding like pulsation dials versus, you know, tachymeter dials and stuff like all of that stuff. I think that just followed after that.
Growing up in Germany, you don't have that watchmaking kind of influence. Like I never spoke like maybe I should, like if you speak to a Swiss guy, like a Swiss 16, 17 years old, do they know exactly the industry, what watches, brands, or they just do you think they grow up with these watches all over?
Yes.
Germany is the same, or it's a
No,
Yeah,
I think so. Swiss culture, they just know that chocolate and watches are inherent to the success and the history and everything of the country. Like you will go in our city of Zurich, you will go into the National History Museum. There's a whole section dedicated to watches and chocolate. But so I think every person in Switzerland, no matter how much you know about watches, or like if you have zero interest in watches, you will know that IWC is from Schaffhausen. You will know that Patek Philippe is from Geneva. You will know that in La Chaux-de-Fonds there is Tissot or Rolex is in Biel, simply through traveling. It's a very small country. It's like from west to east, it's a 3-hour drive. So if you've ever been to any of these small towns, you will have seen like the signages and
Exactly. You can see easy the manufacturing and everything.
Yes, and you will very likely also know people maybe in extended family or your circles that work for those brands or like maybe your grandpa used to work for one of these companies, because they're huge employers as well. And in general of huge, like, probably not cultural significance, but just as like employers, or like in other ways they would just be known. Sponsors for local sports teams, maybe for football stadiums. So yeah.
Okay, but in Germany, no.
No.
Glashütte. How do you pronounce Glashütte? Glashütte?
Glashütte.
Glashütte.
Yeah,
Okay.
it actually means a glass hut.
A glass hut, yeah. Because every time we write it in a post, there would like somebody would come, and it's much easier to write it Glashütte in Arabic. To read it, I'll change it to Glashütte. But also Zurich, so we know Geneva is the French side.
Yes.
And Zurich is more of the German side.
Yes.
The German side. Do you see a difference between the watches that done that side? Because if you go to Zurich, which manufacturers are closer to? Schaffhausen's there.
So Schaffhausen is the one in probably the biggest one in German-speaking Switzerland, I would believe. Then
Moser is there. That's why I was very interested.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes, that's probably one of the bigger, like, known independent ones in that area. We have lots of like small niche producers as well. I think Paul Gerber, for example, is known. They do watch courses in Zurich as well, handmade pieces.
Yeah. The very unique brand. Nobody knows about these guys.
Yeah, that's
their hands is very unique. The case is very. It's a
yeah,
Bauhaus design.
They make everything in house, I think, almost, or like lots of stuff in house.
Yeah. It's very independent.
So that's that. But I think like most of the others, I cannot right now think of any other significant watch brand especially from Zurich.
That's what I'm trying to think. That's why, because if you go to another thing, a lot of people think that Geneva has all the watch manufacturing, which is not true.
No.
I think 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. Vacheron, Patek, Piaget has a manufacturer there, but I don't know if they Roger Dubuis is in Geneva. That's why they have Geneva seal.
Yes.
I don't know who else. It's not much.
Yeah.
Everything else is like an hour away, 2 hours away.
That's true. And I think that's why, like, when you really truly go like to any like watch museum in Switzerland as well, you'll also know that actually watchmaking doesn't have that much to do with Geneva as such. Like Geneva took it commercially always, but actually it's from the villages. It's from the villages like around Neuchâtel, up the mountains from Neuchâtel, no matter what brand you like look into, Chaux-de-Fonds, even Grenchen, where Nevada is from, or Breitling is from. All these, actually Rolex is from Bienne, so that's also not Geneva. And then, in the winter time, they will tell you JLC, they would make all of those watches in the mountains, the poor peasants that couldn't I'm sure you've heard the story 100 times over, but...
No, but I wanted to explain it. There's actually a word to it. There's a term for the system where you buy these different parts. Because I would go to Said to get the dials.
Yeah.
Or let's say Patek and his Philippe.
Yeah.
They would go, during the winter, they go to Said, I need 6 dials of perpetual calendar and rose gold. And then they would go to Ali to get the cases.
Yeah.
And then Muhammad Yusufi he's doing the enameling. He's always fancy. So he's doing something else. And there's a system called I don't know. And then they stampment and then they sell it as a Patek. Or they sell it.
I'm not quite sure what that system is called.
I forgot the name.
But I think it's like what it really was is true watchmaking and true watchmaking collaboration when you think about it. Because at that point there was no way to consolidate for like there was no single manufacturer just doing everything under one roof. It was impossible. So yeah, they would just put the watches together, and then the moment the heavy amounts of snow just like went down, people could walk down into Geneva in springtime and put all the watches for sale. Some they sold directly as is, some sold to jewelry stores, and then they stamped their names on it and sold them there as theirs. So I think that's like where it really comes from.
True. And this until this day, and I was watching a video yesterday about the 1815, they got sold like a 40 million or something.
Yes.
And what people don't, and what's really fun about watches, like you can see the stamp of the case, and that's Patek in the 40s. Who made the case and who made the dial, and then what did you do as Patek? It's a Valjoux based movement, and the perpetual module on the Valjoux based movement is actually from another guy.
Exactly.
And people think is like now it's in house is the huge term. Not everything has to be in house, and everything. But in reality, and what makes it more fun is these different specialities. So if you go to a guy who does dials, that's everything he does. This guy does hands. You do the gears. He's really good at producing this perpetual module that you can put on a Valjoux.
Yes.
Whatever you have. Very interesting. Yeah. So this is how. But Geneva took it commercially.
I think so. Yes.
And funny thing, and this is like, it would make look sound stupid, but when the first time we went to Geneva, you see how we have all the brands on top, and every time I see that, I thought this is Vacheron. Honestly, because you go to the lake and you see Rolex, and then you see Vacheron, Roger Dubuis, and you see all these brands on top of these buildings. And to me, the first time being there, the photos and everything, I thought, okay, this is Roger Dubuis manufacturer, or this is the flagship store or something like that. I think Patek Rolex with Bukhara is the only guys who owns not maybe Vacheron in the back, but everything else is basically buildings, and they're renting out these names, right?
Yes, actually, I think, I don't want to put any wrong information out here, but I believe even it's only Patek Philippe, because when you think about Patek Philippe and maybe Bukhara has their own signage up there.
These are the ones I mean, yeah.
And now, yes, exactly, on the other side, like the Old Town side. And then obviously now Bukhara is owned by Rolex, so now it might be accurate a little bit more. But I remember a couple of years ago with Ace Collective, we received like an advertisement, like be part of the Geneva skyline, and it's actually just privately owned houses that rent their roof for advertising. So
okay, it's basically a billboard. It's basically
it's
a
just,
billboard.
What the Americans have on the side of the motorways in Switzerland, we have it on our roofs.
It's very good. Because honestly, I thought these are the brands, and you would go and walk down and you would have a huge boutique. But it's different. It's very different.
It's probably just like part of the glamour of like the shiny stuff.
Yeah, and then the other side you find National Bank of Kuwait. Other banks and stuff. So
exactly.
So you mentioned Ace, AIS Collective. Yes. First of all, how did you guys start with the idea? Where did you get the idea of creating a cleaner for watches and such?
Good question. I think it goes back to like a kind of personal values almost, so that grandfather of mine that I told you about earlier, the German granddad who ingrained Swiss watches in my mind. He was also the one who always taught me to look after well-made things. So he said, if you have a good pair of shoes, you have to clean them. You have to know how to clean them. I think it's part of probably maybe even German old school values as well, that you have to, have a nicely cut hedge, and you do that yourself. You have a well-cleaned house, you do that yourself. You have good shoes, car, there's no value in driving a Mercedes if it's not clean. So I think, looking after things, that was always been something personally with me, that's been with me. And I think, once I got into the watch industry in terms of like as a collector, I just genuinely asked myself, how can I clean this watch properly? And so that Datejust 2 and then, the Tudor, I really walked into Bukhara, for example, in Covent Garden. I remember that was the first time it really came to my mind. Like, this looks so dirty, and just like washing it under the tap, that can't be it, can it? Like, if there's a cleaning tool for everything in the world, why is there no cleaning tool for watches? So I didn't believe that there was nothing. So I walked into all the different watch stores and I asked them, how can I clean my watch? And they gave me answers like, use your toothbrush, use your, I don't know, just use like fairy liquid at home, but the soft one, or use like baby shampoo. I had all these different answers, and I thought, how is it possible that there's so much ingenuity and focus and around the creation of these expensive pieces, and nobody has ever actually focused on making a good cleaning product. So that, I think that's where the idea came from.
Amazing. How did you start? Like, because we know it's Swiss made.
Yes.
It's chemical involved.
Yes.
And your degree is in business, right?
Right.
You have nothing to do with mechanical engineering or
Exactly.
creating something like that.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So during my time in London, I'm from a software sales background. I met Anna and Ivan, my other two. Actually, first I met Ivan, then later I met Anna. And, we're just friends in London after work, catching up. And I told them about this, and they were also into watches, not as massively as I was. Anna, of course, more into jewelry, and jewelry, touched watches. So she always had a Bulgari, I remember. Ivan was more like, he also had a Datejust. And when I came with this business idea to them, and I didn't even know it was a business idea at that point. I just came with this problem to them, and they said, well, why don't we fix it? I always had side hustles in the past. So they said, like, well, why don't you make that your next side hustle? And then we looked into that, and Anna actually has a background in market research. So she was a professional market researcher. And I asked her for her help, if she could like look into it, like, I mean, how are you going to know if the market needs a watch cleaner, or is it just me? Is it just me having a problem that just I can't solve?
Yeah.
And because clearly nobody else at that point in the watch industry had the problem.
For 300 years, nobody thought about that.
Exactly.
And if you, honestly, when you mentioned that, if you think about anything else, and we were paying thousands and thousands, you can get a shoe cleaner, you can get specific cleaner for the car, you can get specific cleaner for the leather, for everything else. Nothing for watches.
Exactly. So that's exactly where the idea came from. And then Anna did some market research, and she said, purely based on the sales of new watches in the world every year, if we just manage to show this product to 1% of the new watch buying, amount of people every year, there will be a viable business case. So we looked into it. We had Ivan, who also had some experience, nothing greatly valuable at all, but he had some experience in producing things, and also in running businesses. So, we said, what, let's share this risk by 3 and just give it a go. And at that point, we didn't know that if you go to a Swiss manufacturer, so of course we knew it had to be Swiss. And through the process of my personal life, I was just at that point moving to Switzerland as well. So I was transitioning from London to Zurich. And then we thought, it's just like it makes a lot of sense if you make anything in this environment to make it Swiss made as well. That was like kind of just an absolute no-brainer for us. Yes, and then that's how we started. And we had to produce the first batch. I'll never forget this. 1,000 liters of our own proprietary mix of chemicals that would be perfectly made for watches. So the first chemicals producer that we went to, they told us, yeah, we will develop it for you exactly to your specifications, no problem, but you will have to buy 1,000 liters. Oh. And through the rest of the process, we figured out we will have to do probably, if you don't want to sell 1 liter Chronopens, we would have to do probably like 30,000 units or like 20,000 units.
How many millimeters? How many ml is 60, 40? No,
it's 30 milliliters in our Chronopens now. So so we had to start with 10,000 units. So that's like where like there was the minimum viable product, as they call it. So that's how we started. And I'll never forget the day where in our warehouse there were 16 pallets of Chronopens which nobody had any idea about, like what this product is. Like we didn't even know what this product was.
Did you try to sell it before getting it? Like, did you reach out to
No.
Bukhara? Did you reach out to Hidinki, to whoever?
So all of my new friends of, you know, community in Zurich, I asked everybody about it, and everybody was like, yeah, could be, you know, like watchmakers at Bukhara. I got into, like, very luckily through the watch club I was in Zurich, Zurich Home Watch Group. I met a lot of people who are in watchmaking or watch collecting, and those people knew people. Zurich is a village, so everybody knows everyone, especially in, you know, watch collecting. So I gathered some feedback, and people said, yeah, I would use it. I would definitely use it. So I think that's also something that kind of, you know, fed the, you know, this endeavor in the beginning for us.
Yeah, but selling 20 is different than selling 6,000.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought worst case would be, you know, we would have watch cleaning supplies just for the rest, like for us three as collectors for the next like 100 years.
What year was that? Remember
That was
exactly?
2019.
2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Because I'm trying to think, when did we email you guys? 2020?
So shortly after we launched, we had like 2 weeks of silence, because how do you bring a product out there, right?
Yeah.
And,
And all your money went into producing this. It's not.
Yes.
It's very expensive to produce anything in
Exactly.
Switzerland. It's really expensive to have a coffee in Switzerland.
yeah.
No, coffee is different, but anything in Switzerland is very expensive. So
Yes.
you spend all of that money. You get the delivery. You have
Yes.
it at home.
Yes.
What did you do? Like,
That's a very good question.
because it happens with all the new businesses. They do
Yes.
something amazing, and then
Yeah.
okay, can you spend on marketing? Definitely not. I spent all of my money on storage, transportation, and such. So what
Yeah,
did you
we
guys
went in like complete beginners when I think about it. Like we just went through like all the stages of like incorporate the company. Okay, now we've got a company. Then find all the suppliers, you know, have like all of the contracts in place, produce the product, and then suddenly we have all this product in our warehouse. We didn't think about like how we would market it. None of us three was a professional marketeer. Nobody was like professional in Instagram advertisements or anything. So yeah, but we knew we would have to put it out there and show it to the world. So we put it on Instagram. And I think that answers your question, because within the first couple of weeks, we got an email from Ali from Kuwait.
Yeah, and if you ask me how and why, I don't know. That's honestly, because I think maybe if you go back to 2020, what we were trying to do back in 2020, I don't even think we had. Did we have brands back then? I always forget. Established 2018, but maybe. Because what we did in the beginning, we really wanted, honestly, provide everything that we would buy and love as watch collector. Not collector, I'm not a collector, but like as a watch lover, for the community in Kuwait, because everything else is in America. It's really easy to get everything: watch boxes, cleaner, tools, everything. And like when we saw it, was okay, this is very interesting. And by the way, when we ordered the pallet, so we got a pallet from you guys.
Yes.
It came to Kuwait, and then we had half of this office, by the way. Back in the days, half. There was a wall here next to the door.
Wow.
This was the whole office, studio, storage, everything.
Crazy.
And then the delivery guy said, like, there's a pallet. Like, how big is the pallet? It's like a huge, it's a huge carton. They delivered it to my house.
Wow.
Like our house.
Wow.
And then they broke the carton or something like that.
Oh no.
So we individually took 600 pieces, right?
Yes.
600 pieces, one by one, in the basement.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
So, but it was a success. We sold people, and it was the educational part is the same. It's like, why don't I just why don't I just wash my
Yeah.
with the soap that I have, washing my hands? And there was some learning curve. And you said something very interesting about how often do we clean our watches? We don't.
Yeah.
The majority don't, right?
Yeah.
And
Yet.
inshallah.
Inshallah.
So this is how we started. And how is it now after 5 years?
Man, it's been an amazing journey. It's been really a wild ride. But I think before I go where it is today, I just need to credit you guys for everything you did for us. Because honestly, I think like I'll never in my whole life will forget this sentence of how you asked me on this FaceTime call. The first time that we met, I asked you like, well, how many would you like to start with?
Yeah.
And you just asked me how many can you fit on one pallet?
Yeah.
And this,
Back in
we
the
were
days, we were
selling
taking
one
risks.
unit online, one to
Yeah.
Switzerland, one to America,
So
one.
our order was the first big order.
Your order was the first big order, and
Okay.
by hundreds, it was the first largest
Alhamdulillah.
order.
That's me taking
So
risk and Muhammad not agreeing, but it's okay. No, we did well. We
yes, it
sold
took
yeah.
Mohammed and me to,
Yeah.
5 years to become
Yeah.
friends after that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, I think it's that you validated this business case, like also from a B2B perspective for us, very early, so that we had the confidence suddenly that it's not just us with an idea, it's actually 3 other people who have
Three
like
other
a,
crazy people in Kuwait.
exactly. So we're not alone in this world, and we're not the only ones who believe in this product. And
Very glad.
you, of course, helped us with like a leverage that we could have never managed by ourselves. Like, how would we have introduced 600 Kuwaitis or people in the GCC to our products specifically? And it would have been impossible for us. And I think all the feedback you gave us about the packaging, about the product, about like also like the just that you said it,
Towels. I remember the pump. There's so many different things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said like the faces of people. I'll also never forget that, how you said, we're showing people and they're really saying, oh my God, my watch actually is much more clean. And that to this day, we still have that regularly, that people send us emails almost on a daily basis saying like, I was skeptical that I could achieve anything more from this clean than cleaning it under the tap, just with running water and some soap. And that, of course, like that just keeps feeding our drive to like make good products.
Yeah.
Will make watch collectors happy in the end of the day.
Definitely. And you expanded, right? You started with the cleaner.
Yes.
And then
So we started with the Chrono Pen, right? In 2019, then we went on with the Chrono Leather Pen, because that was the biggest question that everybody was asking. How can we clean the strap with the Chrono Pen? And the thing is, leather straps are not, it's actually just the same situation as with the Chrono Pen. There was nothing before. And to this day, there is nothing else than the Chrono Leather Pen to extend the lifespan of a leather strap. So yeah, we just said we have to kind of fill this gap as well in the market, and give something to people that will, make the leather strap more long lasting. This was also then, we're talking now about 2020. There was, I think, like probably like peak time as well for collectors, strap companies all over the place, people spending more and more money on straps. So yeah, we filled that gap as well. And then because we had then at that point as well, lots of jewelry stores all over the world already, like selling our watch cleaners. They were asking about, how about for jewelry? So that's when we introduced the Gem Pen, something that's not really, many people don't even know about Ace, that we also do jewelry supplies, but that just came naturally with it. And Anna was, of course, really behind that as well, because she said, as a jewelry collector, I cannot run a watch cleaning supplies company and not do that. So that was that. And then most recently, we brought out the Bronze Pen, which I'm very proud to tell you is the first product in the world, once again, specifically made to remove the patina on bronze watches as well.
Okay, remove it completely. So you don't have to
Yes.
use 7-Up and lemon and whatever they used to use. right?
Vinegar, I don't know what else people are using, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. And a question about the leather pen. So when you clean a leather, like an alligator or something, doesn't ruin the leather, doesn't make it, because if you do, so when you wear leather watches, usually don't put them into water. So how does your leather cleaner work?
Right. So with leather, you always have to think about it like it's skin, technically, right? So just like with your hands or your human skin, it will dry up. It will react to all the external forces. The sweat you put onto the leather strap has salt in it, has certain acids in it. It's just not good for the leather. Perfume, creams, all the chemicals in that, they will tear on the material. And if you never kind of reset it and clean it, it will just break faster and not give you as much lifespan. And so we kind of just like with any other product, we went the kind of scientific way and looked into how can you kind of reverse the process. So reversing it is actually quite difficult, but how can you prevent? And this is how we kind of came up with a solution then as well. The chemical process of, making sure there's an effect. So we went, for example, with a Chrono Leather Pen, it has oil, specifically jojoba oil. It's a natural resource. And then with beeswax. So wax makes things shiny. Oil takes the shine away a little bit. Oil gives more moisture. Wax seals it. So this is, just two of the components of the Chrono Leather Pen, where we just said, okay, we'll have to make it the best way possible. And of course, we'll have to make it in a way that is true to what we promised. So it will have to extend the lifespan, and we'll have to make the leather more supple and smoother, basically.
Yeah.
And finally, it would have to be safe to be worn on skin. And this is something that, once again, why we have to make our own stuff, and why we have to have our own chemicals produced specifically for us. People wear the strap directly on their skin. No other leather product in the world is specifically made to be worn directly on human skin, when you think about it.
Yeah, so belt,
shoes, on your pants,
jackets.
shoes, exactly. So yeah, we had to make sure it's dermatologically approved, it's dermatologically tested. We had people, soaking their skin in a Chrono Leather Pen liquid for a certain amount of time, seeing if there's any allergic reactions to it. So yeah, we, making something the Swiss-made way certainly comes with like a bunch of headaches.
Definitely.
Development time, investments into, of course, R&D and all of that stuff. But in the end of the day, it's worth it to have the best possible product.
Very nice. And then you did the bronze, and this is the fat. And then you got into so these are the 4 products that you have when it comes to cleaning and stuff.
Yes.
And then you got into a little bit of accessories, right?
Yes. So I think that's also a cool story, and this is how, probably it's worth mentioning the collective part of the company. So very, very early on in the process, AIS, by the way, is Anna, Ivan, and Said. And then the collective part, because we just realized with you guys, for example, in the beginning, you can never run an accessory business by yourselves. It can never be Anna, Ivan, and Said by themselves. We need the feedback. We need the information from the community. And that kind of, then led us to meeting Maximilian Mertens. So Maximilian Mertens, before he even became famous for some of his creations with MBMF, like all the Lepe kind of watchmaking accessories, he was producing other goods as well, and designing other goods. And we just, bonded with him over like a mutual love for design, and he also really liked what we did so far. So we said, you know what, why don't we just collaborate with him and make something to hold watches?
Yeah.
And that's how we made the Chronosphere.
Yeah. It's very, very, very cool. And you can tell, we don't have one, I think we had something here, but you can tell how well it's made, and every single detail is the way you clock it, the way you open it. It's very, very interesting. So
thank you.
That's good. And and then you ended up in 2025 in Kuwait.
Yes.
With Timekeeper here.
Of course.
How is it so far for you?
It's amazing. It's fantastic. Honestly, loving Kuwait, the Kuwaiti culture, the people, the food. Cannot stop talking about the food.
Sure, Kuwait's food, yeah.
Yes, and just the kindness and the friendliness, of course, from you and the whole team. But
pleasure.
As a country, Kuwait has been super hospitable so far. I can't wait already for my next trip here. And it's very unique as well. Unique culture, unique history as well.
You told me something very interesting yesterday, before having a shimmer and such. But you said in the past 10 years, Kuwait and Malaysia was something that you felt different than anything else, right?
Yes.
Why is that? Because to me it was like, okay, you've been to Dubai, of course.
Yes.
You're going to Saudi Arabia, inshallah, soon.
Yes.
But why Kuwait? Because you've been, mashallah, traveling everywhere.
I just think it's beautiful to keep, like, the way these cultures keep themselves, keep their integrity from the west, from the rest and the West. It's just, there's a certain culture. There's lots of mutual respect here for people. The way people are with each other. You can see it in the streets. The way people carry a certain pride of their local produce here, even though it's like my whole family reached out to me and asked me like, how is Kuwait? Nobody in my family has ever been to Kuwait before. And actually it was very similar when I traveled to Malaysia, because you mentioned it. When I first went to both of these countries now, I just think, yes, once again, it's very, very safe, very friendly, very welcoming. People will love to take a minute out of their day and out of their agenda just to show you and teach you something about their life and their culture. And I think we don't have that in the West and in Europe much anymore. So I think even in my chosen hometown of Zurich, if you will walk down, people will be friendly to you and will show you the ways and everything. But people are quite stressed in their everyday life, and it's not really part of culture to now show you part of our culture. So yes, I'm very impressed with that in Kuwait.
Alhamdulillah. I want to end with one last question, because I love the watch you're wearing. What are you wearing? Because we should have started with that question, but I reversed it.
Thank you. So this is Patek 5110J. This was my first, also my last. I bought this I think 2 or 3 years ago. Complicated travel time watch, and I love it.
When did they produce? So this is before the 5130? No.
Yes. So this is actually the first serial produced world timer watch ever, I believe. So there was the one in the 50s, the original one, but that was not like produced in a series. There was basically like a bunch of like private commissions.
The one with the 2 crowns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the Cartier, whatever.
Exactly, yes. And then that exact same mechanism and movement, except for with the crown on the left side, now with a pusher, I think was re-released very late 90s, and then into the early 2000s, I believe. And that's exactly the run of this watch.
Perfect.
But I'm double wristing today, so I'm also wearing...
let's speak about this one too, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So my friends in Geneva, Key Time, they just challenged themselves to make a watch completely in one room in Geneva. Yeah. So it's incredible, because I've been to their little manufacturing studio, and they really make every single thing in-house that they can, and it's purely Swiss made. So there's no games played about certain parts, maybe, to like just hit exactly the 60% manufacturing percentage. And once again, it's part of the community. So actually, my friend, one of the 2 guys who runs the company, Edouard, he's a real person from Geneva, and we met at the watch fair, and he knew our products, and he uses our products, the cleaning products, regularly. And we became friends over that. And now a couple of years later, they just came out with their own watch, and it's solar powered as well through the dial, 3D printed case, really, really cool. And so this was just a recent gift from my fiance, so I had to do double wrist on this trip.
And when are they gonna start delivering and such? Because the last time we spoke, they were accepting pre-orders and such. So is the company ready? When are we gonna see them in Kuwait?
I believe they've now launched.
Okay.
So I'm not paid to make any statements here. I'm just happy to have like a cool community of friends around me who make things like this. But yeah, I do believe that they're open for orders now.
Yeah, and they're priced around 250 Swiss francs.
250 Swiss francs, I believe, yeah. Once again, this was a gift from my fiance, so I'm not supposed to speak about prices, but I believe so, yes.
Thank you very much, Saeed. I really appreciate your time, and I'm very, very happy to have you here before Dubai, because I remember when I spoke to you, you said, yeah, I can come for a day. So that's not enough for Kuwait.
Yes.
Because we're very proud about Kuwait, and we love to show our country and our culture and everything.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for taking the time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the stay. And thanks for being a guest here.
Thank you so much for your hospitality, for everything you did for us as a company. Once again, to your whole team. And Yes, I'm looking forward to, of course, for Dubai Watch Week and all those shenanigans there. But this is definitely already probably the
Inshallah.
most memorable time on the trip here in Kuwait. So thank you very much for
Inshallah.
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.